Hello and welcome to the Film Ireland podcast. I'm Gemma Creagh and I'm chatting with director Tom Sullivan about his really powerful Irish language period drama, Arracht. So the title means monster. You have a really, really powerfully and very well written protagonist, and then a really great antagonist set in probably one of the most dramatic points of Irish history during the famine. So it's a fabulous film to watch. It's incredibly, as I said, powerful, but just so gripping, so tense, so emotional. And it just like that, it's on par. We were chatting about this very briefly, but it's on par with anything that I've seen coming out of Hollywood since in the cinema of late. So
wow, thanks.
It's just stunning. So I will just get into it. And I was just wondering if you could maybe describe the story in your own words.
Yeah. So Arracht is about a man called Colmán Sharkey who lives on the west coast of Ireland in the 1840s, and he has a young family, and he's part of a fishing community. And we meet him around just before the first rot, the first blight hits the crops, the potato crops. It's kind of the late summer. And Colman is the kind of guy who he's very able and capable individual, and his family, his father would have had a relationship with the local landlord, and he brews poaching. He's a bit of an entrepreneur, and has probably ideas about himself. So when this happens, he almost has a sixth sense that this is different. I mean, there'd been famines before, there'd been blights before, and there'd been hunger before and shortages, but he feels it in his water that there's something wrong, and so he goes to the local landlord to plead leniency for the rental hikes that they started to initiate around about the time, and when he goes up there, he thinks one thing is going to happen, but he brings a dark character with him, who he doesn't realize his dark history, and something terrible happens, which basically puts Colman in a situation where he is on the run and he's unable to protect his family in the worst time possible. And then we jump 2 years later, and he has isolated himself on an island because obviously he's on the run, and he's lost everything, and he's living a feral life. And the heart of the film really starts to happen when he encounters a young girl called Kitty, who is struggling and ill, and she's a real fighter, and she teaches him how to live again. So that's kind of the movie in a nutshell.
And it's a very powerful story, and it's just beautifully told, visually and character-wise, narratively speaking. It's told through the Irish language. For the most part, we have a few dodgy English characters, but like I don't actually give too much away without giving the kind of spoiler bit of the plot. But it's not, say, a traditional Irish film that you would have seen. And again, it kind of was born of different roots. So it was T.G. Cahir funded with Screen Ireland and the BEI coming on board. But could you tell me a little bit about developing that script?
Yeah, so the Cine Cahir scheme that they set up, we were the first out of the blocks. So
and doing well as our Oscar, talk about a great pilot.
Slinky, which is a really interesting film that came out alongside us, but hasn't had the look or the whatever that we've had. It didn't get a release, but it's a really interesting film made by Daithí Keane, who's directing Smother now, the TV show. But he and actually my main protagonist plays the lead in the other one. My main antagonist, Dara Devani. But anyway, the scheme, basically the scheme provides funding for a completed script very early on. So you submit a treatment, and very early on.
What level of a treatment? So is it the 11
pages? The treatment, I think the initial treatment that they were looking for, actually, I can't remember. I've done a few since then, and I'm mixing them all up in my head. I think it was like a 6 to 10 pages. Actually, that was the treatment. So wasn't huge, about normal. And based on the treatment, they give you the funding. So they pick five, and they fund 5.
And this is for the development stage for you to
develop the script
first
into a feature, and then they pick 2 of those 5 to green light. And once you're green lit, you know you've got 1.2 million. You know that's there, which is kind of amazing, because with normally with films, the work only starts when you've written the script, and even if it's a great script, you still have so much of an uphill struggle to get it funded. But this is a producer's dream, really, because it kind of lands on your lap. The money is there.
I suppose as well that there's no kind of ability to go, okay, well, definitely I'm going to go get co-production funding from the Nordics.
No, you don't have to do any of that, But then again, that can be a hindrance, because, if you have a wonderful script and you've attached a good cast, then you might be in a situation where you could get more money, but the scheme prohibits that and caps it at 1.2, which I can see the reasons for that, because, once you start to try and bring in further funding, it tends to delay. And what they really want to do is to get films out. So if you cap it at 1.2, it makes things simpler. And, you write your scripts to fit, you cut your cloth to measure. And that's what I didn't. I wrote it. Arracht was originally a film that really needed probably about 15 million quid to make. But that was my, the way they say you should never write your low budget film. You should write your big budget film and then tweak it down, So that's what we did. So.
And just to kind of go back to the development process. So you, in the scheme, I presume you went through a number of drafts. Who are the people, say, giving the notes at stage 1? Is it a script developer, or is it the BAI, Screen Ireland, and TG Carr on a panel?
When we start, now the scheme has evolved. So I don't know how they're doing it now, because this was 3 years ago, and they've had another, I'd say, 8 films developed now, not shot because of COVID and everything. I think there's about 4 in total, maybe 6 in total that have been actually shot. But at the time, in terms of development, they were very respectful and supportive, but very not hands-on, really. So I found that great. And I got... Actually, after we were greenlit, I requested that we use some of the budget to bring Mark O'Halloran in to script edit, which was unusual, because people were saying, "You're greenlit. Why are you bringing a script editor in at this point?" But because I was directing, I'm just so aware of the script has to be, watertight, particularly on a low budget film. So Mark came in, and Mark's style is more, suggestive, and he, very much about the cutting, and very much about the cutting away the fat and losing stuff that you don't need, and stuff that might flag or lag, stuff that might lag in the narrative. So that was really helpful. So we had a 90-page script going to shoot, and then budget started to encroach. It was like, okay, you can't do that, and you can't do that. If you want that, you need that. You want blah, blah, blah. And then it turned into a 75-page script. So Arracht was a 75-page script in the end. But in a weird way, I think it helped. It distills the film down to something very raw and flinty and kind of authentic in a strange way. It just suits it. If Arracht had been set in a high-rise corporate rich world where you want glitz and glam, it probably would have hindered us greatly. But because it was set in 1840s and it was a poor time, I think the film being, in a way, not that the film is poor, but the film being basic, and I think it all lends to it,
Yeah, but it is a period piece, and they do go to a pretty extravagant place here and there, and there's a lot of
no, it doesn't look cheap. Let me. It is. It doesn't look like a low budget film, and it doesn't feel like one. It feels like a big film. Absolutely. But that's credit to Kate McCullough and Donald's incredible performance, and Sacha's incredible performance, and Dara Devani's performance, and it's got a lot of talent in there. There's a lot of heavy hitters that are knocking it out of the park. And I think that's why it works. And of course, the script wasn't bad either.
Yeah, the script wasn't bad and the direction was great.
Well, the director didn't get in anybody's way, you know. I think that's...
So you're probably very empathetic to actors, seeing as that's your own route in the past of...
Yes.
That's your own job, so you're familiar with the requirements of...
Oh yeah, I think it's been it's funny, like when I started to kind of move away from the acting, I had this awful feeling. Did you just waste 15 years of your life there, you know, doing something that you're not going to... Because, you know, you invest in something and you think this is going to be it for the rest of your life, and then suddenly you start to move away and it's like, okay, what's that about? But then thankfully, and like, I suppose what's wonderful about what I did was to use corporate team building language. I pivoted in what I was doing and was able to use everything that I learned as an actor to direct and to write. All those scripts I read over the years, the great ones and the bad ones, and all those wonderful other directors I've worked with, and all the bad ones too, and knowing what not to say and knowing what doesn't work. I think it was an apprenticeship, and I think it serves me well now, you know.
I always say actors make the best writers, because they have a deep understanding of character, and that's that is the heart.
And also, I think, you know, I'm very aware when I'm writing. I'm very aware of actors reading scripts, and I'm very aware that, you know, but it's not good enough to write great lead parts. You also have to write great small parts, because also I think I have a knowledge of trying to remember lines, and I think that is really weirdly enough, writing dialogue, I often used to find that if I would have problems remembering scenes or lines, and it was usually because it was bad writing. Your brain doesn't remember bad writing as quickly as good writing. It's a very basic thing. If the writing is flowing and it feels real, then it'll work because it makes sense. But if the writing is bad and khaki, then you have to remember it like remembering abstract things. So I think in that, when I'm writing for the screen, I have a natural editing system where it has to flow, and I hope, I don't know, you can ask the actors, but I don't think they had any problems remembering what I'd written. And also I try and pull out dialogue all the time, because I know it is a visual medium, and you know, we don't need a lot of words a lot of the time. Actors could do it for you without it, you know. So
well, I did definitely concur, and if anyone is listening, I as a viewer definitely concur, because there was just moments that I thought, you know, like, it was such a serious time, and I do think like the tendency with period drama is to go very melodramatic and serious, but there were these beautiful human moments between, like, I think the lead character and Colman and his partner and his wife, and they were just really lovely and truthful. And it actually, and watching them made me realize you don't actually get this that often in that genre. Like, everything is heightened and I love you, darling, you're the sun and the moon, instead of these very warm, earthy, natural conversations that you'd have with your actual partner. And I twigged that watching that, going, oh my God, that's great writing.
Yeah, I'll tell you where that comes from. It's really nice you picked up on that. I mean, because, and somebody asked me recently, you know, somebody was writing a script and they were saying, how did you find writing in, what's that called, reserved pronunciation or whatever, the British thing, you know, the landlord scenes and stuff. How did you find writing that? Where did you go to research the way they speak and everything? And to be honest with you, when I write my first drafts, I don't try and write in anybody's voice other than my own. And when I wrote that couple in 1840, I was thinking of two Dublin people talking. I was like, because that's where I'm from. And then when I have that, then I tweak it then afterwards in the redrafts to say, okay, they wouldn't say that, or they wouldn't say that then, but the basic flow of their relationship and the language is based on my relationship with my missus, or, you know, yeah, there was lots of stuff that never ended up in it, but like a lot of Dublinisms ended up in there, but you know, but then I've covered them up, you know. When I say Dublinisms, I mean Irish, the way we talk to each other. And I think, I think that gives an authenticity to the characters. I don't know if people said things like that back then, but I think us viewing it now go, yeah, that seems real to me. They seem real to me. That's something you would say to your husband if he was taking somebody up to the landlord's house. You'd say, "You're bringing him with you? You know, you sure about that? You know, why are you worried? You know, that like it's that natural flow of language. It's funny. I wrote a line today. I'm writing a script at the moment, and it's set in 1870 in Glasgow. You know, and one of the characters turns to the other one, and he's after building something, and it's kind of the end of the film, and she's trying to tell him to, you know, should he, you know, cheer up or whatever, or she goes, "You're not happy? Can you not enjoy this moment?" And he goes, "I am enjoying it." And she goes, "Well, somebody should tell you, or you should tell your face," right? So that's a real Dublin. That's real something that, you know, my mother would have said, you know. But that's in the script, and she will speak with a Glaswegian accent, and she's 1870s, but that would seem real. That's a real thing that probably people did say to each other back then. Why wouldn't they have? So they're the flows of the language that I try and instill into my characters, you know. It comes from me first, and then we try and cover it up, you know. And then the actors make it their own, you know.
Okay, so that's my background. I have such a focus on it that I could spend literally the entire time that we're talking on that. But no, I'm going to go on to the shoot next of all. So what was it like shooting? Because you do have violence, horseback riding, children, boats, water, fishing, you have everything that is probably a nightmare to shoot with. How did you wrangle everything?
No, we just had a great team of people, you know. We just really we looked out, and the locals down there were brilliant, and I really felt supported the whole time. I never felt it was a struggle or it was hard. I mean, we weren't sitting around like drinking coffee. I mean, it was manic, and every night I had to rewrite scenes because things were being
weather,
and the weather was mental. There was 4 storms with names blew through where we were over the course of the 20 days that we had, you know. 20-day shoot. It was 4 weeks in total. Look, look, I don't remember it being hard at all. You know, people tell me it was hard afterwards, but I don't remember it being difficult. I remember it just being a joy. I mean, you're with brilliant people, brilliantly talented, and you're bringing your words to life. I mean, to me, it was just amazing, you know. And yeah, we just had a great team, and we got on with it. And, you know, if we were told on the Tuesday that you can't do that, Tom, because of insurance, then because I'm a writer, I was able to go home that night and go, okay, how do we get this beat into the film some other way? Okay, that scene, okay, we can put that in there. She can say that in that scene instead. And it was a lovely way to work. And it's funny, I was watching Francis Ford Coppola, I think, doing in the documentary Heart of Darkness, you know, where it's about the apocalypse now, and he's on set all the time typing, and he's typing all the time. And then I watched a documentary with him on The Shining, and every night he's typing. And no, sorry, this is Kubrick. Same thing. He had his little typewriter out every night, and he's typing, and he's giving new pages. And I love working like that, because it's kind of a holistic and a full rounded way, and you're moving with it. You're moving with it. You know, you're not going, no, this is the script. If we can't do this, I mean, you're kind of saying, okay, that's fine. We'll do something else. You know, we'll make it work some other way. And a lot of the time, the other way, if you give yourself to it, ends up being better than what you had come up with originally. You know.
Sounds very, very immersive. If you have your songs there, I'd say that's a tight schedule. So you were, before this, you had directed, I think, a TV series as well, but it would be someone else's. I presume there's a very different, the vibe if you're doing like a feature film to a television series. Is a television series a little bit more like, not 9 to 5, because all filming is quite grueling time-wise, but is it just more regulated? And do you get as much of a say if you haven't written the project, if that makes sense? I suppose
it depends on the project. I mean, I haven't worked for a big TV series or anything where, you know, the scripts have been, you know, I know if you're working for a broadcaster like RT, well, I knew when I was an actor, I remember this, that you couldn't change any lines. Even the actors weren't allowed to change lines. They just had to say the lines, because the broadcaster would come down on the production company this is what we okayed, and you know. So I've never worked as a director in that atmosphere. The TV show I did was a friend of mine had written it, so he was very open to changing. He was like, yeah, whatever you want to do, just do it. So I don't know what it's like.
30-minute episodes, which is a lot to get through as well.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
And it worked out really well. That was Fear Bullet we did for T.G. Carr. It was kind of a comedy. Not a lot of people saw that, but it's really good. It's a really good show.
I loved the premise of it. When I was doing my research for that, I was like, oh my God, that sounds brilliant.
Yeah.
I think it's such a shame. And I think T.G. Carr are doing such amazing programming, and they're really doing things that are outside the box. And I think for a lot of us, we tend just to miss it. Like, I think even their social media and is brilliant. Like, they're so entertaining. I just follow them on Twitter for the crack. Like, they're great. No, I don't speak Irish.
They're great. They really are. And and there's such a potential with the language there, you know, such a potential to do incredible things. I mean, like, I find working through Irish and writing and you know, adapting the script in Irish, it's a massive cultural well, and it's something that I think, you know, more filmmakers should embrace, even ones that don't have a relationship with the Irish language. And I would liken it to, you know, the Scandi noir and everything that's happening and obviously great European and foreign language film. I just think there's a huge mine of great drama to be tapped in the language. And I think this is just the beginning. I really hope this is just the beginning, and that, you know, we see more good films coming out.
Well, sure, you brought Irish to the Oscars.
Yes, we did.
You
I don't think that's been done before.
Yeah. Did you get to go? Was it fun?
Oh God, no, I didn't. We didn't go anywhere. That's the awful thing about what happened to us was when the pandemic came down, it was just, Arracht was just starting its festival run. And it did all the festivals, but I was in my bedroom on a Zoom. I didn't get to go to Sicily. I didn't get to go to France. I didn't get to go to America. I didn't get to, like, I was looking forward to that. But I didn't get to do any of that. So that was a bit depressing. So the release is really great because I get to go down to Galway next Wednesday for a Q&A. That's the most exciting thing that's happened to me in the last 2 years, really, you know, well, other than the fact that we had a baby and all that kind of stuff. That was pretty exciting too. But in terms of the film,
I was going to say, don't tell your partner like that.
No, but like in terms of getting to go anywhere, Galway's the highlight, really, you know.
Yeah, I did want to say, sure, you might be going over to America soon, will you? I heard there's going to be an American remake, or that's in the works at least.
So that's interesting. They it's a great group of guys. A guy called Greg Shapiro, who produced The Hurt Locker, and these are real people. You know, you talk to a lot of, when you're doing this kind of stuff, you talk to a lot of people who are, you know, not real, but Greg Shapiro is real. Like, I had one chat with him over all this on Zoom, and just the name drops was just fantastic. Like the people he just knows, you know, people who would be your, you know, P.T. Anderson, and just like people you would just like die if you met, you know. And he just knows them. They're his mates, you know. He can pick up the phone and ring these guys. So that was incredible just to talk to him for an hour, you know. But they're going to do something with it, yeah. The way these things work is they option it. And then they see, can they work it out, you know. They see, can they work some kind of version of your film, and then they start to attach and see if it works. And then if it goes into production, then that's when I suppose it gets exciting. But I'm not sure if I will have any input. I certainly don't have any input into the script writing part of it, because I mean, with these guys, they've got 3 script writers, top Hollywood script writers that they work with, and nobody else, you know. And so that's the level they're at. Like, they're not, you know, maybe they'll bring me on as a consultant. That would be nice. But I don't think so, because even what he was saying was they're not doing a famine thing. They're going to set it in America, and it's going to be some kind of emigration story, but they're going to use the beats of the film. They love the beats, and they love the way the film was told. And they're big fans of the movie, big fans, which was really exciting and amazing. You know, the fact that people of that level watch your film and are excited about it and love the way you did what you did, you know, is a real, just a real, like, unprecedented shock and a lovely thing to happen.
Because it's incredibly powerful. Like, I'm not surprised. I love even how episodic it is, you know, and how the sequences have such a different feel to them. Like, it is super duper powerful. Okay, so so much, I'm not even going to go into that my spiel about how much I loved it, but I did. Like, this was just, it was so good.
Great.
But I do want to talk about the edit. So again, you said you had a 75-page script. It is an 85-minute or 83 minutes film in total. And again, I think it's, the production value is stunning. The pacing is great. Like, again, you have these significant shifts the whole way along. It's scored beautifully. And I just wanted to, like, did anything change in that process?
Oh yeah, the edit. I mean, there was a lot of scenes that we shot that we got everything and we were sorted, but you know, there was a lot of issues around the beginning of the film. My dad died 2 days before we finished shooting, so I had to, and then we were shooting all the opening sequence. So I had to go to Dublin and be by his bedside, and then I came back. Yeah, it was terrible. But we got back when I got back for maybe a day, and so that was problematic because it was very strange then getting into the edit and seeing kind of, you know, the whole opening sequence on the island, the poutine brewing, him coming onto the pier. That was shot by, I mean, that was directed by another director, and that was very difficult for me because, I mean, I think it was also, you know, wrapped up in the whole grieving thing, and I went into the edit like in my grieving stage. Like, my father had died like a month earlier, and I started to edit the film. So yeah, it was it was winter, it was a very dark time, and
there's tough themes in that film.
Yeah,
to watch. Very tough theme if you're going through.
It was really hard, and I felt my confidence got knocked as well by the whole process. And because, you know, when a parent dies, like, well, if you don't, you will. It pulls the rug out from under you as a person, because you start to question lots of things about yourself. And I think the edit, I had Mary Crumblish, she was a friend of mine, and she was cutting it with me, and thank God for her, because she kind of looked after me. Now I began to kind of get my strength back after Christmas, so things began to get better then, and I started to believe in what I was doing again, you know. But there was a lot of faltering around the beginning of the film, trying to open the film, because we didn't get to shoot stuff. The opening sequence was originally supposed to be, it was a really brilliant opening sequence. It was one of the first things I'd written about the film, that he had kind of, he used to swim into a cave and allow the tide to come up almost to kill himself, and then he'd swim out. And this was a sequence that we were supposed to shoot, but it was one of those things that we just never got to shoot. So we had to come up with a beginning of the film, and that's where the poem comes in, and we invented a lot of that. And so we, you know, they say you write a film 3 times, once on script, once on set, and then once in the edit. So we certainly rewrote a lot of stuff in the edit, and we had to really work hard and push hard to get to where the film is now. And I have to give credit to the producer, Cuan McAneil, because he stuck with it. Like, you know, in fairness to him, he did stick with it, and a lot of producers wouldn't have. They would have said, right, lads, this is it, like, you know. So that was so it was a difficult time.
Sorry, did you shoot the opening sequence afterwards, or like when you were editing it, or did you? Like,
no, we didn't get to do anything. Well, I went off myself and got some pickups myself at one point, just little things that I needed, but we didn't get reshoots, which was a shame. It would have been great. We just didn't. But then what happened was, around about January, which was like about 2 months into the edit, we got Keela in to start the soundtrack, and they kind of just wrapped me in a blanket and brought me into their world of kind of creativity. And I started to kind of I would be sitting with them when they were playing music to the screen, and they'd be saying, Tom, pick up that drum and bang that. And it just was so cathartic for me. And I think the film and the edits started to become affected by that, and it lifted everything, and it kept getting better and better and better. You know, it taught me an awful lot about editing, actually. That it's about new eyes, it's about new ideas, it's about, you know, not being too precious, but also knowing what you want. I was very, very sure about pace. I was very, very sure about style. I was very, very sure about silences. You know, I was very sure about all that. And I think we managed to, and we ended up with a film that, as my editor said at the very end, she said, Tom, against all odds, you've ended up with the film that you wanted, you know. And that's a credit to everybody that was involved, yeah.
Because
God, I got very morose there. I'm sorry about that.
Sorry, no.
Very morose. Sorry about that.
No, it is. But again, like I was saying, it does touch on very dark themes of grieving, of loss in the film. Like, and again,
very funny though as well.
Yeah, I know. But there's great moments of healing and levity and humanity, I think, which makes it very, very watchable throughout. But it's, yeah, well, of course it's a film about the famine as well. It's not gonna, there will be difficult themes, so I'm not giving too much away there, but I can imagine that.
I don't think it's maudlin, you know. I think the film, you know, I think it's a real kind of, I would call it more of a thriller almost, you know, that it kind of skips along, and then this thing happens, and then there's a big bang, and then there is that moment of grief that happens in the middle of the film, and that you spend time with him, and that's a very surreal experience, and a very kind of a dark and deep place. And I think people respond to that, particularly Irish people, because I think that's, in that moment, I think that people make a connection with our history and the loss, you know. And I think that's what's really important about the film. And I think it's quite an experience. That's one of my favorite parts of the film, because it's all about the elements, the ocean and the loss, and this guy on his own, and the land, and he's living in a cave, and there's just something very, I don't know, very primal about it. And then she comes in and lifts it, and it becomes then a kind of one of those, not a buddy movie, but it almost becomes like, you know, the odd couple that come together, and she is suddenly in his shit, like, you know, she's in his face, and she's living in the cave with him, and he's like, I gotta get rid of this thing, and she's just amazing, you know. So and it's hopeful, and then you also the darkness comes back, but not in a sad way, but more in a thriller type sense. The murder ballad kind of thing happens. So I think it's a good L watch, you know.
Definitely. No, and there's again, I have this thing about pacing where I find it very difficult to watch things that are far too slow, or that are far too one thing at any point. And I think it just shifts, and you spend time in these kind of quiet moments, and it moves on to something that is very powerful and affecting, and then it moves on to something that has a lot of energy and even a lot of violence and movement to it. So it's a fantastic watch, and I could not recommend it more. So I'm just very conscious of your time. So thank you.
I'm really enjoying the chat though.
First, I just want to say, what has the response been so far? So you've finished your festival run. You went digitally remotely to the Oscars. What has the feedback been from people on the ground?
It's been really surprisingly positive, you know. There hasn't really been any negative feedback as of yet, and that's okay too. Like, I don't mind that, but I think people, particularly Irish people, I'm really looking forward to Irish people seeing it. They haven't really seen it, because I really think they're going to like it, you know, and they're going to get something out of it. But in terms of the foreign audiences have been really positive, you know, and we picked up awards, and it's just been really, it's all been good. Like, I kind of have to pinch myself a bit, because, you know, it was a tough, you know, you don't know what it's going to be like. Your first feature is always going to be a challenge, and also you know, the subject matter is difficult, but I think we got away with it.
I think you certainly did. Yeah, it has been picking up awards. The recent one was Talon.
Yeah, it won it won. The best one was the Dublin one. It was brilliant. The Critics Award. That was lovely because, you know, I've read all those critics. Like, I have a lot of respect for those lads, and for them to come out that day, and I had no idea what we'd won. We were just asked to come down, and I thought we'd won cinematography or something, and no, you won the main prize, and that was incredible. And that the same week was just before COVID, and all the planes we stopped getting on planes. Me and Donald flew to Glasgow, and it won the Audience Award in Glasgow, which is a big award too, because it's their only award, and that was in the 1 week. So that was its first, like, and honestly, I kind of in my gut knew it was a good movie, you know what I mean? I was like, this is good. I always knew it was going to be good. I kind of always knew, you know, and that's not arrogance. I don't know. It's just, I think when you work so hard on a script, and then I know I have a good eye for cast, and I know, you know, and I think they're the most important things, you know. It's the people in it and what they're saying, you know, and what they're doing. And I think if you get that right. So I had a good feeling about it. So the response has been great. Yeah. People have been really, like, you no exception. And you know, I can tell when you're talking to people that they're not just blowing smoke up your ass, that they're actually saying, this, Tom, I really loved it. Like, I really enjoyed it, you know.
Yeah, and I'm say the audiences will as well. So it's in cinemas on the 15th of October. So make sure to get your ticket. Support Irish film. You will not be disappointed. And thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thank you for the chat, and I hope I didn't go too maudlin on you.
No, that was brilliant. It was such a good film, and we're so delighted. And
great. Thanks so much.